They say love conquers all, but they forgot to mention it also racks up interest charges. The truth behind Scheana and Brock's $25,000 a ring will ruin the illusion of Bravo romance. There are engagement stories, and then there is Shay's, a glittering cautionary tale about the delusions of televised love, maxed-out credit cards, and the unholy marriage between narcissism and debt. Few moments in reality television have so perfectly crystallized the cultural rot of performative wealth as Brock Davies purchasing a $25,000 engagement ring on credit. Not a car, not a mortgage, not even an investment. A ring charged, literally, to the illusion of prosperity. In the pantheon of bad financial decisions, this one sparkles. Brock, the self-proclaimed father of three, who seemed to forget the accompanying financial obligations, decided the best way to prove his love was by securing a chunk of morganite big enough to double as a paperweight, $25,000, reportedly spread across a stack of credit cards, all so he could propose to a woman who would inevitably trade the ring in before the ink on their marriage license dried. Scheana, for her part, accepted this act of fiscal theater with the same unblinking enthusiasm she brings to all things Scheana, proudly, performatively, and utterly detached from reality. The woman could sell a meltdown as a moment of empowerment. Of course, she could spin a financed ring as romance. Yet beneath the champagne glow of her engagement post lay the grim truth of it all. A man deeply in debt, children waiting on child support payments, and a fiancé willing to co-sign the delusion in exchange for a storyline. Lisa Vanderpump herself, the show's reigning queen of champagne morality, summed it up best when she tried to explain what was so grotesque about the situation. This wasn't love. It was theater, poorly staged and expensively financed. Brock wasn't buying a ring. He was buying an image. Scheana wasn't getting engaged. She was securing screen time. The diamond wasn't even a diamond. It was a pink morganite, a gem whose prettiness has never justified its price tag. Morganite, as the internet's many armchair jewelers gleefully pointed out, is a $300 a carat stone on a generous day, which means that $25,000 masterpiece likely had a market value hovering somewhere between wedding band from Etsy and Claire's accessories prom collection. But the fakery didn't end there. Rumor has it the ring was gifted, or loaned, by designer Kyle Chan in exchange for airtime, which would make the entire purchase a glorified sponsorship. The more cynical theory, and thus the more believable one, is that the payment drama was itself a storyline, another chance for Brock to prove he's the scrappy underdog from down under with bad credit in America but a heart of gold. As if the American public should be charmed by the idea of a man who buys jewelry before paying child support. It would almost be funny if it weren't so bleak. Because beneath the glitter and delusion lies a disturbingly modern ethos, love as luxury branding, debt as devotion, and shame as an outdated concept. Brock and Scheana's engagement wasn't about commitment, it was about optics. The kind of romance that doesn't exist outside the glow of a ring light. They didn't build a foundation together, they built a facade. And yet, the most absurd detail isn't even the money. It's that Scheana didn't keep the ring. The pink monstrosity that was so her, in her own words, was quietly replaced by a lab-grown diamond within the year. So much for sentimental value. Like every other accessory in her orbit, the ring was a prop, meant to be flaunted, photographed, and swiftly forgotten. A perfect metaphor for their relationship, gaudy, hollow, and overvalued. Of course, none of this would be quite so galling if the couple had even a passing relationship with self-awareness. But Scheana's brand has never been introspection. She's the human embodiment of the live, laugh, love sign, unshakably earnest about her own delusions. When confronted with her husband's unpaid debts, she doesn't cringe. She narrates. When Lisa Vanderpump delicately suggests that maybe a surprise wedding financed by a friend is gauche, Scheana doubles down. Shamelessness, in her world, is not a flaw. It's a superpower. Brock, meanwhile, has perfected the art of underachieving with bravado. He is the kind of man who calls himself father of three on Instagram while owing money to two of them. His entire persona is a balancing act between self-pity and self-promotion. In his universe, accountability is for lesser men. When challenged about his finances, he shrugs. When questioned about child support, he smirks. When caught in obvious hypocrisy, he blames editing. It's reality TV's favorite defense mechanism, the idea that the footage isn't real, only the fame is. Watching the pair rationalize their decisions is like watching a TED Talk on delusion. They speak of partnership while performing mutual exploitation. They discuss growth as if it's a storyline arc, not a personal evolution. Their relationship is a business venture, complete with branding, strategic tears, and sponsored sincerity. Even their affection feels curated, like a photo caption that's been workshopped by a PR intern. And yet, the audience keeps buying it, or at least watching it, because in the grotesque economy of reality television, sincerity is irrelevant. Spectacle is currency. A man buying a ring he can't afford is tragic in real life, but riveting on camera. A woman flaunting her fiancé's debts becomes a symbol of loyalty, not lunacy. The show thrives on this inversion of logic, where irresponsibility becomes entertainment and humiliation is just another plot point. What's fascinating, in a grim sociological way, is how easily the cast normalizes this behavior. By season 11, the same people who once mocked Brock for being broke are suddenly praising him as the ideal partner. It's a collective case of televised amnesia. The bar is so low that simply not committing a fresh atrocity counts as growth. Brock stops being a deadbeat long enough to film a confessional about fatherhood, and suddenly he's rebranded as a family man. Scheana stops crying long enough to post a sponsored ad, and she's hailed as a boss mom. Their union isn't a love story, it's a business merger between desperation and delusion. He gets a platform, she gets a storyline. Together, they get validation, which in this ecosystem is far more valuable than cash. Debt can be paid off, but obscurity is forever. There's a small, almost tragic irony in how the audience responds. Everyone sees through them, yet everyone watches. People mock the $25,000 Amorganite, dissecting its carat weight and resale value like amateur gemologists. But they still tune in for the next scene. Outrage, after all, is engagement. And Scheana knows engagement, both the emotional and the algorithmic kind, better than anyone. So yes, the ring was gaudy, overpriced, and financed through a haze of irresponsibility. But in the end, it achieved exactly what it was designed to do. It kept the cameras rolling. In the reality TV economy, that's the only currency that matters. If modern love had a patron saint, it would be Scheana Shay, smiling under studio lights, proudly flashing a ring she didn't buy, for a proposal that wasn't romantic, from a man who couldn't afford it. Together, they embody the new American dream. Fake it, film it, and finance it later. If the financial delusion of Scheana and Brock represents the fiscal side of Vanderpump Rules' depravity, then the show's physical delusion, the unwavering worship of being LA hot, is its aesthetic gospel. The series operates on the unspoken premise that beauty is both currency and moral justification. Every argument, betrayal, and public humiliation is wrapped in the comforting assurance that everyone involved is, at the very least, very good-looking. The tragedy, of course, is that they're right, at least by reality television's narrow, airbrushed standards. The cast began as a collection of waiters, bartenders, and aspiring actors who all happened to look like extras from an American Apparel campaign. They were young, thin, and photogenic in the fluorescent light of Sur, a restaurant that sold $18 salads and the illusion of glamour. Over the years, they have evolved not into better people, but into better facsimiles of themselves. Botoxed, bronzed, filtered to oblivion, they are living proof that, in Los Angeles, evolution is cosmetic and regression is emotional. It's easy to forget, while watching the current seasons, just how startlingly attractive this cast once was. Their early episodes are a time capsule of early 2010s beauty, cigarette-thin, perpetually tanned, and always one contouring tutorial away from a nervous breakdown. Yet, for all their collective prettiness, none of it ever translated into grace. The show's original sin is the assumption that attractiveness excuses everything. They are, as one might say, too hot to be humble. Kristen Dutt was perhaps the most archetypal of this breed, a living diagram of the crazy hot axis. Her beauty is of the jagged, high-fashion kind, all angles and limbs, a model who stumbled into a Bravo contract and never left. She strutted through the first few seasons like a character in a European perfume ad, directed by someone who hates women. And yet, for all her visual appeal, her personality radiated the chaos of a woman permanently at war with both herself and everyone else. She is proof that being tall and symmetrical can take you far, but it can't make you tolerable. Stassi Schroeder, meanwhile, embodied the mean girl's ideal with frightening precision. Blonde, rich, and unbothered by self-awareness, she was the only one whose arrogance seemed contextually appropriate. If you were casting a movie titled The Problem with White Women, she'd be the first audition. She possessed that specific type of beauty that television adores, not universal, but aspirational enough to justify her entitlement. In the early seasons, she treated Sur as her personal Versailles, and everyone else as unpaid extras. Then there were the Toms, Schwartz and Sandoval, the golden retrievers of the male species, inexplicably adored and endlessly forgiven. Their brand of attractiveness was not rugged or commanding, but malnourished and moisturized. They were the kind of men whose mirrors got more attention than their partners. Sandoval, in particular, has always looked like a failed magician who accidentally joined a boy band, while Schwartz radiates the soft incompetence of a man whose greatest romantic gesture is showing up at all. And yet, they were treated as the romantic prizes of the show, the gravitational centers around which the women orbited. Why? Because they were thin, well-dressed, and in proximity to camera lighting. In the world of Vanderpump Rules, that was enough. There's something sociologically fascinating about how this cast reflects the evolution of white beauty standards over time. A viewer rewatching the series in reverse, starting from the post-Scandival seasons and working backward, would notice that what was once LA hot now reads as vaguely alarming. The women of early seasons look less like glamorous adults and more like malnourished mannequins. Faces sharp from contouring, limbs angular from ambition, they were sold to the public as aspirational figures when they resembled the aftermath of a juice cleanse gone wrong. It's not just their bodies, it's the ideology behind them. The show became a shrine to the illusion of effortlessness, the kind of natural beauty that takes $3,000 a month and a social media manager to maintain. Watching them prattle on about their glow-ups while they chain-smoked and drank vodka tonics is almost anthropological. They are the visual equivalent of Los Angeles itself, gorgeous from a distance, crumbling up close. A viewer raised on different cultural media might understandably find this brand of beauty alien. Outside the echo chamber of Bravo, these people aren't beautiful. They're aggressively maintained. Their attractiveness is a full-time job. In early seasons, they bragged about being models, actors, and singers, professions that are, at best, code for unemployed but hot. Yet, even in their pursuit of fame, there's something deeply provincial about their vanity. They preen and pose as though Sur is the epicenter of the universe, when, in truth, it's a themed restaurant in West Hollywood serving goat cheese balls to tourists. Over time, as the Botox settled and the lighting improved, the cast began to look less like real people and more like museum exhibits, dedicated to midlife panic. What was once youthful radiance hardened into something uncanny. Faces stopped moving. Teeth became uniformly blinding. The women's bodies remained thin, but their spirits seemed exhausted from the upkeep. Reality television has always been cruel to women who age under the fluorescent lights of their own relevance, and Vanderpump Rules is no exception. Katie Maloney, in particular, has aged not badly but publicly. Once considered the quietly beautiful counterpoint to Scheana's desperate sparkle, she now occupies the unenviable role of the relatable one, Bravo speak for slightly less airbrushed. Her evolution mirrors that of the audience, older, wiser, still watching in disbelief. That she's been repeatedly forced to defend her looks on a show that celebrates moral degeneracy is its own bleak metaphor. In this world, you can cheat, lie, and humiliate with impunity, but heaven forbid you gain 10 pounds. Jax Taylor, the show's resident sociopath, represents the male equivalent of this phenomenon, a man who looks like he's perpetually one energy drink away from a misdemeanor, yet continues to be framed as desirable. In Season 1, he was genuinely handsome in the slick gym rat way of a man who believes cologne counts as a personality. By Season 10, he had morphed into the human embodiment of regret. Still, the show continued to orbit him, as if his abs held gravitational pull. What Vanderpump Rules reveals, perhaps unintentionally, is that attractiveness in this ecosystem isn't a physical trait, it's a status. To be hot on this show is to be visible, relevant, and scandalous. It's an economy where beauty functions as a down payment on attention, and attention is the only real asset. The women, in particular, are trapped in an impossible cycle, expected to age backward while carrying the emotional labor of the entire franchise. They are punished for vanity, yet destroyed without it. The men, meanwhile, coast on mediocrity wrapped in moisturizer. Sandoval can cheat, lie, gaslight, and cry into a sequin jacket, and still the audience debates whether he's aging well. He isn't, but that's hardly the point. His survival in the Bravo ecosystem proves that charisma, even of the toxic variety, outperforms conscience every time. The collective obsession with appearances has also warped the audience. Viewers dissect the cast's evolving faces with forensic precision, analyzing cheekbones like crime scenes, debating which fillers migrated where. It's a grotesque feedback loop. The cast modifies their bodies for validation, and the audience validates by ridiculing the modifications. Nobody wins, except the cosmetic surgeons of Beverly Hills. And then there's the question of relatability. Reality television once sold itself on the idea of authenticity, of ordinary people living extraordinary lives. Vanderpump Rules inverted that formula. Its appeal lies not in watching people like us, but in watching people we would never want to be. They're aspirational only in the sense that one might aspire to be noticed, even for the wrong reasons. In the early seasons, they all believed fame would make them beautiful. What they discovered instead is that beauty made them famous, but not fulfilled. The older they get, the more their faces tell the truth their words never do. Behind the veneers, there's exhaustion. Behind the filters, fear. Each facelift is a prayer against irrelevance. Each new filler a silent confession that time, unlike Bravo, cannot be manipulated in post-production. And yet, for all the moral decay and physical deterioration, the cast remains mesmerizing. Their downfall is beautiful to watch, their self-absorption almost poetic. They are, in the end, perfect avatars of a culture that values being seen over being understood. In their world, the worst sin isn't deceit or cruelty, it's fading unnoticed. If Vanderpump Rules has taught us anything, it's that moral bankruptcy is far more entertaining than financial ruin. The show's true genius lies not in its storylines, those are as recycled as the champagne flutes, but in its characters' total commitment to self-destruction. It is a masterclass in televised pathology, where narcissism, hypocrisy, and emotional chaos coexist under soft lighting and dramatic music cues. Every member of the cast believes they are the protagonist. Every argument, every tear, every performative apology is delivered with the conviction of Shakespearean tragedy. Yet remove the editing, and what remains is a group of adults whose maturity plateaued somewhere around their third tequila shot at Sir. The brilliance of the show, and its horror, is that it never pretends otherwise. Take Tom Schwartz, for instance, a man whose spine has been missing for 11 seasons. He is the kind of person who believes that indecision is a personality trait, that avoidance is charm. He speaks in half sentences and shrugs through life as though passivity were enlightenment. His relationship with Katie Maloney was a decade-long case study in slow emotional erosion. Watching them together was like watching a house collapse in real time, painful, inevitable, and somehow still boring. Schwartz's breakup with Katie should have been his chance at redemption, a clean slate after years of marital inertia. Instead, he found Joe. Or, more accurately, he found someone to orbit his self-pity. Their pseudo-relationship, part romance, part shared delusion, played out with the same masochistic repetition that defines all his choices. He loved her until it became inconvenient. He wanted commitment until it required effort. Then, with his signature blend of cowardice and faux confusion, he decided they weren't a couple after all. Cue tears, chaos, and another televised therapy session masquerading as reality. Jo, for her part, mistook breadcrumbs for affection. She became another footnote in Schwartz's lifelong dissertation on emotional negligence. Yet the public didn't mock him. They pitied him, as though being spineless were an illness rather than a preference. In the Vanderpump ecosystem, mediocrity in men is endlessly forgivable, while the women must earn even basic sympathy through performative suffering. Tom Sandoval, the other half of this unfortunate duo, operates on a different end of the delusion spectrum. Where Schwartz is passive, Sandoval is pathological. His narcissism has long been the show's engine, a self-sustaining power source of vanity and deceit. He is the kind of man who believes eyeliner is depth, that performing sensitivity equals having it. For years, he curated the image of a tortured artist trapped in the body of a lounge singer. Then came Scandoval, the affair that broke Bravo's fourth wall and finally exposed him as what he's always been, a man who mistakes manipulation for charisma. Sandoval's affair with Raquel wasn't shocking because it happened. It was shocking because it took the audience this long to stop excusing him. For years, his brand was built on moral superiority. He was the good Tom, the one who scolded others for cheating while quietly rehearsing his own betrayal in the mirror. When the mask finally slipped, he responded not with remorse but with monologues, long, self-absorbed soliloquies about how misunderstood he was. Watching him defend himself was like watching a snake argue that it's been victimized by its own fangs. And then there was Ariana Madix, the collateral damage turned cultural icon. Her discovery of the affair, caught in real time, catapulted her from supporting character to national symbol of female vengeance. America loves nothing more than a wronged woman who looks good in a revenge dress. But what followed was even more fascinating than the betrayal itself: Ariana's metamorphosis into a brand. Within weeks, she went from grieving partner to media darling, booking endorsements, talk show appearances, and a seat on Dancing with the Stars. The public framed it as empowerment. In truth, it was capitalism's swiftest pivot. There's a lingering theory that Ariana timed the reveal, that she waited until the moment of maximum narrative impact to accidentally find evidence of the affair. Whether true or not, it speaks to the show's eerie blurring of performance and reality. Even their heartbreaks have PR strategies. And if she did orchestrate it, one almost has to applaud her. In a world built on manipulation, she simply played the game better. Her ex, meanwhile, continues to drag out the legal disentanglement of their shared house, a final act of financial cruelty disguised as logistics. Nothing says closure like a man weaponizing escrow. Sandoval's greatest crime isn't just infidelity, it's his unwavering belief that he's interesting enough to justify it. Then there's Katie, perennially described as the mean girl of the group, a title that says more about the audience than it does about her. Katie's primary sin is refusing to be likable in a cast where likability is currency. She's sharp-tongued, easily irritated, and completely intolerant of stupidity, a trifecta that would make her a hero if she were a man. Instead, she's vilified for lacking patience with people who deserve none. Her marriage to Schwartz was an unpaid internship in emotional endurance, yet she's the one accused of bitterness for finally resigning. It's remarkable how much energy the fandom expends debating her temperament while glossing over the men's documented abuse, manipulation, and public humiliation of their partners. This is the Vanderpump paradox. Misogyny is background noise, but a woman's tone of voice is headline material. The bar for male decency on this show isn't low, it's subterranean. And then we have Lala Kent, sobriety's loudest spokesperson and hypocrisy's most enthusiastic practitioner. To her credit, she has remained sober in a sea of vodka-fueled chaos, a feat worthy of applause. Yet sobriety hasn't tempered her arrogance. It's simply made it clearer. Lala preaches accountability while doling out judgment like communion wafers. She styles herself as the moral compass of the group, which is rather like being the tallest skyscraper in a swamp. Her transformation from Randall's kept woman to independent mother is marketed as growth, but the script remains the same. She thrives on conflict, speaks in platitudes, and weaponizes self-righteousness with alarming precision. The men of Vanderpump Rules, for their part, continue to operate with the ethical consistency of weather vanes. Jax Taylor remains a monument to arrested development, a man who has learned nothing, forgotten nothing, and continues to mistake notoriety for legacy. His entire career is a cautionary tale about what happens when reality TV rewards sociopathy with sponsorship deals. Watching him moralize about anyone else's behavior is like watching a fox deliver a TED Talk on poultry safety. James Kennedy, meanwhile, is the show's resident Shakespearean fool, volatile, delusional, and perpetually one drink away from an apology tour. His talent for self-sabotage is rivaled only by his confidence in blaming others for it. He insults women, hurls tantrums, and still manages to spin it as growth. Only on Bravo could the phrase, "at least he's sober now," function as a personality rebrand. Across 11 seasons, the show has evolved from a petty workplace dramedy into a psychological petri dish of modern narcissism. Every cast member is trapped in the same Ouroboros of validation. They behave terribly, are rewarded with screen time, apologize insincerely, and repeat. Redemption isn't earned, it's edited. The brilliance of Vanderpump Rules lies in its complete absence of moral hierarchy. There are no heroes here, only varying shades of villainy. Viewers choose favorites not based on virtue, but on entertainment value. Katie's cruelty is more watchable than Schwartz's cowardice. Ariana's quiet suffering feels nobler than Scheana's performative optimism. Sandoval's narcissism is mesmerizing, if only because it's so unrepentant. Every personality flaw becomes a brand. Even Lisa Vanderpump, the show's namesake and ostensible voice of reason, is complicit. She presides over the chaos like a benevolent monarch who profits from the very dysfunction she pretends to scold. Her faux English restraint provides a thin veneer of class over what is, at its core, televised madness. She is the high priestess of plausible deniability, always above the fray, yet conveniently framed in every shot where it pays to appear wise. What keeps Vanderpump Rules fascinating after more than a decade isn't the scandals themselves, they blur together, but the consistency of delusion. These people are incapable of genuine change. Sobriety, therapy, marriage, divorce, it's all costume design. They aren't evolving, they're rebranding. And perhaps that's the show's accidental brilliance. It mirrors the culture that consumes it. We live in an age where apologies are performances, relationships are content, and morality is a marketing strategy. The cast of Vanderpump Rules simply lives that truth out loud. Their dysfunctions are extreme, but their motivations are painfully familiar. To be seen, to be adored, to matter. They are the saints and sinners of modern reality television, sacrificing dignity on the altar of relevance. Each tantrum, each tear-streaked confession, each hollow reconciliation adds another layer to Bravo's most enduring morality play, a soap opera for the spiritually bankrupt. In the end, Vanderpump Rules isn't about friendship or love or even betrayal. It's about the performance of all three. Its cast doesn't live life, they stage it. And the rest of us keep watching, not because we admire them, but because their chaos makes our own seem almost reasonable. They are, in every sense, trash, but exquisite trash, the kind that glitters under studio lights, smells faintly of desperation, and refuses, gloriously, to decompose.